Welcome back. The Rolling Stones' Keith Richards turns 80 today. The hard-living, guitar-licking spearhead of the iconic band's sound for the past 60 years has defied the odds to reach his 9th decade. Since his rise to global stardom as lead guitarist of the Rolling Stones in the 60s, Keith Richards has remained the poster boy of rock and roll. In 1973, UK music magazine New Musical Express ranked Richards the most likely rock star to die within a year. 50 years later, he's still here, has reached 80, and he's still rocking. Between 1968 and 73, Richards was instrumental in the Stones' string of seminal rock albums, all helping the Stones solidify themselves as one of the most influential bands ever.
I get down with it. Ah, yeah. Ah, yeah.
With Stones frontman Mick Jagger, Richards has written the bulk of the band's catalog, but drugs threatened to end his career and his life. Heavy heroin use in the 70s led to a slew of possession charges, Richards later admitting to using a number of other drugs to, quote, deal with fame and pressure.
I feel perfectly fine. I mean, I feel no different. I could jump on stage now and do the show, you know. But it's, I don't know, I mean, hey, it's a process, right? You never grow up.
Throughout it all, he's never stopped playing music, laying down his iconic blues rock licks for yet another Rolling Stones album this year, Hackney Diamonds. Joining us now to talk a bit more about Richards' epic life and career is music publicist Eric Alper. Eric, first and foremost, how huge of an impact has Keith Richards had on the genre of rock and roll?
He's still alive? I mean, he was supposed to die out in the 1960s, in the 1970s, in the 80s, definitely in the 90s, and 2000s. In fact, in the 1970s, there was a magazine called New Musical Express, and it voted Keith Richards every single year for 10 years as the next rock star to die. Well, here he is when he's 80. So that alone kind of puts him up there in terms of the most influential guitarist of all time. The fact that he's still here after all of these years. But, you know, if you remove the fact that he is probably the coolest rock and roll artist that ever existed, the fact that he is one amazing guitar player, in fact, he's had a huge influence on the world of rock music. And it really does come down to the fact that his raw style, his blues influenced style, his use of open tunings on the guitar, his rhythmic strumming, all of those throughout the decades have influenced countless thousands and thousands of artists to do the same. And in fact, songs like Satisfaction and Brown Sugar probably wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for Keith Richards. In fact, the Rolling Stones probably wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Keith Richards.
So it's safe to say you're surprised he made it to 80.
Yeah, you know, this was a guy that was supposed to be the ultimate rock and roll waste case. You know, he survived drugs, he survived alcoholism, he survived marriages, he survived hanging out with Mick Jagger for 6 decades. And the rock and roll lifestyle just really isn't very kind to a lot of people. There's been a lot of you know, premature passing aways and deaths and accidents, and here's Keith Richards not only surviving but thriving, especially with their brand new album that came out this year that garnered some of the best reviews of their career. So it's amazing that Hackney Diamonds is still on the charts. It didn't disappear. And they have special guests like Lady Gaga and Elton John and Paul McCartney. I mean, that just shows you that they just are able to transcend generation and musical styles.
Are there any new talents that have used Richards as a template for their own success?
I think anybody that really picked up a guitar, you know, when you are standing up there on stage pretending that you are the rock god or goddess that you truly are, standing up in front of people, playing your music to an audience that may or may not be so open to it. Keith Richards' attitude of the long hair and the earrings, and I think I'm kind of describing myself, but like, just his very look from, with everything from every punk band to Patti Smith, even you can thank Keith Richards for that.
Thanks so much for chatting with us, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me.